Yeah, Charlie,
So,
full disclosure for our audience, we have the same agent, so we're whatever. I don't think we have a conflict, but just letting people know he's a great agent. He's great. Um,
I could,
yeah, but the my question is on the book. To what extent, when you were doing the research, did you find that these corporate? Because I remember doing a piece for the New York Post about the disconnect between what business executives and CEOs thought that people wanted, what consumers wanted, and what consumers actually wanted. So why is there what, and there's a massive cavernous difference. So my question is, why was it, and I remember, I think the woman who did the Budweiser thing, she had to button down the hatches because she was under attack, because it's like she had done a video, saying all kinds of ridiculous things previously. It's just like, why do the CEOs listen to people like her, who's so out of touch? She'd been to the best Ivy League schools, completely living her life in a bubble, disconnected from the very people that she's supposed to be selling to. Oh, and she insulted the base of. I mean, it's just an example. She said
well,
we need to refresh the brand because it's old and white and male, and it's pale, male, and stale. And it's like, you know,
she didn't quite.
yeah, yeah,
She said it was,
yeah.
you know,
But like, why do the CEOs, if they have a fiduciary responsibility to maximize shareholder value, why are they listening to people who are, like, in some cases directly opposed to what the consumers actually want?
okay. So in my book, the woman you're talking about, his name is Elisa Heinerscheid. Um, and she had a supervisor named Daniel Blake. And so you should keep that in mind. This is a very woke multinational company. In her defense, and I'm not saying what she said were like, I would choose those words. That was probably not the right words. In her defense, and by the way, she's a brilliant marketer. You go back and look at some of the stuff she's done in the past. She did some amazing. I went back and looked. Great commercials and very artistically done. She did that Game of Thrones commercial for the Super Bowl one year, which was pretty remarkable. She also did she did the Miles Teller ad when he's dancing for the Super Bowl with his wife in front of the dog as they drink it. It was like cute stuff. I mean, nothing woke about that. But you got to ask, why did she go here? And she went here because the company was under everybody. DEI was filtered through the entire company, and I show this in the book. And from the top, not just Anheuser-Busch, AB InBev. The guy who runs AB InBev is named Michel Ducaris, is like a Davos guy. He signed the Davos Manifesto about sustainability and this and that and this. I mean, these are the wokeness is from the top. It was unfortunate. Listen, why her and Daniel Blake didn't defend themselves, you can only guess. I mean, maybe they got a payout, maybe they were told shut up by their lawyer. I mean, who knows, right? They left, and they're trying to restart their careers, and they should, because they're both really good marketers. But if you want to know why, you saw Dylan Mulvaney in a bubble bath, sipping a Budweiser and giggling, some of those other antics, it's because of DEI. I mean, it was clearly they were told they were told to get influencers that reflect DEI mandates, and gender diversity is part of that. And if you're going to go to gender diversity, you should be real clear that Dylan Mulvaney, like, I didn't know who she was before this, but I do now. That's someone you'd go for. I mean, that Dylan Mulvaney interviewed President Biden last, I think, a year before or months before, the commercial was aired. I mean, this is a person that was that if you're talking about trans influencers, she did this thing, like something like 364 Days of Girlhood, basically chronicling on YouTube. And I talk about this, and you just can't do it in a vacuum. Like, oh, the dumb marketer, the dumb woke marketer decided to go there. No, the dumb woke marketer was under some pressures on DEI, and the company is a big woke company, and and I unpack all that. I also unpack some stuff that Ted Cruz found some wild stuff on Dylan Mulvaney about prancing around like doing an imitation of Eloise. You ever hear of the book Eloise? I never did, but my producer did. It's it's for young girls,
It's
right?
for like young girls. Yeah.
Yeah, like she was like reciting it like she was Eloise. I'm Eloise. I'm six. I mean, Ted Cruz showed me this. I mean, like, think about that. The other thing is that and this is why I couldn't understand like how only the marketers are taking the heat here. Alcohol is a very regulated industry. Anything an alcohol company does, listen, you can't get on like Anheuser-Busch's website, Budweiser's website, unless you say you're 21, right? You got to put I mean, you can lie, but you at least have to take that step and say, here's my birthday, right? Um, you're telling me that nobody reviewed Dylan Mulvaney in legal, reviewed her contract? No one in payroll saw the check that this person just popped out of nowhere. It wasn't vetted at all. I mean, that's absurd. I mean, and here's the thing. I ran every single line of what I wrote about Anheuser-Busch. By the way, I ran everything by everybody. I had long conversations with everybody in this book. Disney got the chance to review material. Budweiser did. They chose not really to respond to me. They just, I kept dealing with their PR person, and I have my anecdotes nailed, and they chose not to respond.
Well, I was going to ask,
but
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say.
I was just going to say.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say that everybody to respond. It is telling that they chose not to respond to my central thesis, which is this is not the the woke marketing people, who are not dumb, by the way. The woke marketing people's fault, a company-wide effort on DEI, and they chose not to fight back on that.
Yeah. Well, I before we wrap it up, I just wanted to ask, because one of the things that I think the Biden administration has been pretty skillful at doing in terms of having it both ways is, you could say, well, Kamala Harris is a DEI candidate, and they haven't pushed back on corporations. If anything, they've encouraged corporations to pursue DEI policies, but the administration itself hasn't really specifically enacted that many DEI policies. So I would be curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, I don't know about DEI policies. I mean, they do have a litmus test on cabinet appointments, from what I understand.
Well, that's individuals, but I'm talking about in terms of policies, because I think they're saying, hey, yeah, we're appointing people, but look, it's the corporations that have really done the DEI stuff. We haven't proposed any bills to Congress. We haven't pursued any specific DEI policies ourselves. So they're trying to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. Listen, one of the things corporations do is respond to the policy coming out of the White House. And if you see the Justice Department Civil Rights Division demanding, being DEI focused and DEI, on the side of DEI, you're going to go there in your corporate policies. I mean, there is a time when that stuff though hits reality, and reality came in two ways for corporate America. And I showed this at the end of the book, because it's a narrative. Is that you ran into customer huge dissatisfaction with the American people on this stuff. American people just don't like this. I mean, it's just the justification for giving rich minorities a break over some poor white guy is just people just rubs people the wrong way, and I think that's a resonating thing. I think the DEI as it sort of manifests itself in marketing really pissed people off, whether it's Dylan Mulvaney or you go shopping at Target and you see a book about transing kids next to a rainbow colored onesie. I mean, just that put Target in the spotlight. I think, Larry Fink, who I like, and he's created a great firm, but his proselytizing of ESG he kept doing it when we had high inflation, and when we needed to drill more oil because of what's going on in the Ukraine and Russia. Yet he kept pushing that button, and that high inflation got blamed on him in some respects, and you had a revolt against that. And then you had that on top of the Supreme Court's affirmative action ruling. And I kind of make this point. When that happened, as soon as that Supreme Court ruling came down, corporate boards were on notice that, the precedent here is going to be made on DEI and these other things, because it's a reading, I believe, the Supreme Court is a ruling on, check my titles here, Title 5 of the Civil Rights Act, one of the titles, that involves school admissions, but it's almost identical to the title that covers more than 15 employees. And so that precedent, you could see legal challenges to DEI, and that could get to the Supreme Court. So that's why a lot of these companies are scrubbing their sort of diversity trainings and stuff like that, because the Supreme Court basically says this stuff is illegal. So be careful.
Well, I think unfortunately we're gonna have to wrap it up. But I will just say my hope is that the whole Claudine Gay debacle was the beginning of the end of DEI, because let's face it, this is a mediocre plagiarist who's only put in her role because she was a Black woman. And I think that there was such a level of disgust and Harvard was literally listed 263rd out of 263 on a survey of free speech. So I think you're seeing a lot of pushback, and I'm hoping that this is the beginning of the end. And frankly, books like yours, Charlie, are going to, I hope, can you continue that train moving faster and faster, because it's a disservice to the country. And frankly, it's a disservice to the Democratic Party. So I'm so bummed that we're out of time. I really hope that you'll come back. It's such a fascinating conversation. And it's just been such a pleasure having you. Carrie, any final thoughts?
No, Charlie, your book's coming out in August. Can you come back in the book tour?
Oh, absolutely. Done. August 5th is the release date, and
well, I will put it in my Audible queue for sure. I very much look forward to it.
Just so you know, I did the audio. You get to hear mine.
Oh, I love it so much more when the author reads it. I'm reading Fareed Zakaria's book right now, The Age of Revolutions, and he narrates it. It's so much better when the author narrates it. I think it just gives it much more passion.
Fareed's an old friend of mine, and he's got a much better sounding, a much more mellifluous voice than I do.
Well, that is great. Well, thank you so much, Charlie, and thanks to all of you for joining us on Practically Political. It's always great to have you. We'll see you next time. As always, I'm Dave Spencer.
And I'm Carrie Shevwell. It's been a pleasure, Charlie. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.